Hi guys, my name is Victor from PhoneArena, and today I'd like to talk about, as you've already read on the title, the Samsung Galaxy S21 and Samsung Galaxy S20 Fan Edition. What's pretty much common or different between them. This is pretty much for those of us who want the best Samsung at a lower cost. I mean, not all of us have those big bucks to spend on the S21 Ultra, but still, it's kind of interesting to see what's going on with these two phones. Given especially the fact that the S21 is actually lower in cost compared to the S20 lineup last year, and it kind of seems more in line with what exactly the S20 FE had to offer. So without further ado, let's begin. Both of these devices are rather close in terms of pricing. The S21 starts at $799, while the S20 Fan Edition starts at $699. That puts them really close, and honestly doesn't really tell me which one I should buy if I was looking at. Starting from there, I decided to then look at performance. Performance-wise, the S21 has the obvious benefit of being newer, a generational improvement in SoC. This one comes with either the Exynos 2100 or Snapdragon 888, compared to the Exynos 990 or Snapdragon 865 in the Galaxy S20 FE. Meaning, on paper and in practice, the S21 is faster. But it's noticeable only when you actually push them to the limit, which means for the average user, these two are really darn close in performance. They're actually really fast. Let's not forget, this is a flagship SoC from just a couple of months ago, so really, I wouldn't consider this a major difference. Then in that case, moving on, how about the camera? Both sport a triple camera system with the same 12 megapixel wide shooter, a slightly different 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a different telephoto lens. So the S20 FE comes with a 3x optical zoom camera, whereas the S21 comes with a 3x hybrid zoom 64 megapixel camera. Meaning it uses those 64 megapixels basically to do an image crop, to zoom in. So I was interested to see what's the difference there, and I did a kind of 30x zoom photo of my office building across to the other. Basically, the S20 FE came out a bit more sharp, but I'll put that down to preference, since for the most part, not many people actually shoot at 30x zoom. It's really hard to stabilize something at that sort of difference, so it comes out a bit shaky. But still, something noticeable, something noteworthy. In that case, let's look at the 12 megapixel wide sensor. The 12 megapixel wide sensor on both of these is actually pretty great. There's a bit of a processing difference, but let's put it this way. Doing a close-up shot of a phone I had, both were pretty much on par with autofocus speed, with sharpness, basically on par. Then I moved forward from there and decided to do a couple of selfie shots, and my face was pretty well lit, so much lit so that it could have been blown out, but dynamic range on both devices did a fine job and I came out nicely. So this is also one spot where I would put these two devices equal. But I decided to also do some video stabilization tests in the office by running around a bit. For some reason, the S21 disables video stabilization when you enable it, and when you disable video stabilization, it enables it. I don't know why it did that, but it's something to consider. At least mine did it. Not sure if yours will do the same, but it is most likely a slight fix with a software update. Nevertheless though, both did an awesome job. The S20 FE came out a bit more stabilized to me, but I'll put it down to preference once again. Now, regarding autofocus, both devices did a good job, or a mighty fine job, so to say, of focusing and defocusing my face, so no problem whatsoever there. This is a test of dynamic range with the sun right behind my head. Currently you're hearing both the microphone of the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE and Galaxy S21. And yeah, go ahead and tell me which one you prefer, and yeah, that was pretty much why I actually tuned in from here. Right then, so far we have the same build quality, we have almost the same performance, day-to-day tasks, we have almost the same camera performance, once again, in average cases. Let's have a look then display-wise. So display-wise, well, this is where it gets a bit different. So both devices are actually a different size. If you have a look at here, if you're somebody who's into media consumption, the S20 FE is your device hands down. I mean, it's a bigger screen, 6.5 inches, 1080 by 2400. No point in thinking about that at all. While the S21, if you're somebody who has like smaller hands like me, is your device. It's a 6.2 inch display and it's much easier to handle. I can demonstrate it now, like seriously. I can almost touch the top of the S21, whereas I can't do the same with the S20 Fan Edition. So overall, it really depends on your hand size and your preference, or use case basically. But in terms of quality, both support HDR10+, and they looked rather similar, so I'll put them equal in that regards. But in terms of fingerprint, the fingerprint sensor on the S21 lineup was actually improved. It's 70% bigger now, the in-display ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, meaning it's much quicker, it detects your fingerprint more reliably now, so that's pretty solid if you ask me, whereas this one is actually smaller and sometimes can misread your fingertip. Do bear in mind with that one. Battery-wise, well, the S20 FE actually won. This is basically my direct answer to that. A bit more in depth, or a bit of a background here. The S20 FE comes with a 4500 mAh battery, whereas the S21 comes with a 4000 mAh battery. Given that this is a newer SoC on the S21, you'd think that there might be some kind of energy savings, maybe improve in some sort of way, but no. Actually, the S20 Fan Edition lasted on average 2-3 hours longer in almost every test we did. So basically, if you were to browse the internet at 120 Hz with the S21, you'd last around 8 hours, whereas the S20 FE would last around 10 hours. If you're not convinced here, we have the full battery results, you can check it out. That was pretty much what I noticed there. So we mentioned so far most of the important things, but we still haven't mentioned software support, which is important for most of us, which is where Apple is still leading. But still, nevertheless, Samsung decided to commit to 3 years of software updates. So in this case, both of them should receive 3 years of updates, but the S20 FE being slightly older will receive most likely less updates. Whereas the S21 released this year will release it, get its 3 full years of updates. Put it simply, the S20 FE came with Android 10 out of the box, now updated to Android 11, whereas the S21 came with Android 11 out of the box, meaning the S20 FE already blew one of its major OS updates. This so far has me convinced that if I want to spend a bit more bucks, or for the average user, the S20 FE is actually perfect. It's slightly cheaper, it comes with flagship specs, albeit from 6 months ago, but still kind of amazing what they did with this phone. No wonder it's actually phone of the year for many YouTubers and tech reviewers altogether. Whereas the S21 is actually still an amazing device, don't get me wrong. It's just still not exactly too great compared to this one for the average user. But for somebody who's looking for the best, currently released, I think this is actually a pretty neat choice to consider if you don't have the money to spend for the Ultra model, since I would not actually consider the Plus model. They're exactly the same unless I wanted a bigger version of this one, but that's maybe for another time. In the meantime though, this has been fun. Once again, I'm Victor from PhoneArena, and I should probably go back to doing my actual job. And yeah, please subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.